making more money didn't ignite that much of a passion. And becoming the best, I thought that it would ignite the passion. I thought that if I would fight, for top 3, it would make me happier, but it really didn't. But on the side, while doing all that, I was training other players. I had the first small group of like 3 players, and then I had like 5 players. And that type of relationship, it had given me so much more meaning. It made me stay in poker. I think I would probably quit earlier because it gave me some sense. Because without that, I would ask myself, what am I doing here? Why am I winning this money? And what is the point of all that?
What's up, guys? So I'm with Jaser, and I actually didn't know much about him, and then I looked him up, and it's quite a big deal. I'm like really impressed with a lot of things that I see. This guy has got quite a lot of depth, on top of being a top 6max player, and with a very interesting coaching style and a very professional look to his site too, which impresses me. Just rare for poker, as I am witness to be so professional. Yeah, I know a lot of you guys wanted him to come on, and here he is revealing his secrets to how he's become one of the best coaches in the world. I've heard that, I read that you were obsessed with finding the algorithm to become the best coach. Is that right?
Yes. Hi, Daniel, and thank you for such a compliment. Yes, I've been obsessed with an idea to find the perfect study algorithm, and it took a couple of years. I wouldn't call it perfect, obviously, nothing is perfect, but it worked for me, and I try to share this knowledge with my students.
Okay. So what is it? How much of it can you even reveal?
I mean, I can reveal the idea of it. There is nothing mysterious or nothing super secret. I've mentioned it in a previous podcast on mechanics of poker, and I'm pretty sure by now many people have similar approach that would be different in some details, but the idea is the same. You pretty much have to use something like a Pareto principle and find 20% of the most effective things to study first in order to get 80% of the outcome and not become a perfectionist, which is a deadly sin in poker. And then you have to pretty much break all the spots using some ranking system. Yeah, that's the idea pretty much.
Okay. Yeah, I do something like that myself. I don't know. What I don't know, it's hard to prove that this works for all sectors, all knowledge, which, by the way, is hard to do justice to as someone who's now gone into many different fields from poker and realized, holy fuck, the world is way more complicated than I thought. It's like way more complicated than I thought. And even poker itself is quite complicated. So, yeah, I mean, in poker, I actually did something like that. I would say that I personally went a bit deeper. Why don't you tell us a bit about how you applied this to, you were one of the best 6max regulars, so there's that. How did you apply it to 6max? And also, how did you apply it to your coaching program, which sounds, man, your coaching program looks really legit from your website. It's one of the most legit websites I've seen, and I've heard big things. So can you tell me this?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say that it sounds very pleasant to me that you said that the site looks nice. I actually made it myself. I didn't hire any designer because I realized that in the process of creating it using AI, that it brings me lots of joy, and it's interesting and it's fun. And I wanted to be able to fix everything by myself if I need, without having to contact anybody, because I had a previous site and it wasn't very fun. Like when you have to ask people how to add something or remove something every time. So I figured out I'll do it myself.
Well, I don't agree with the delegation thing, but clearly you have quite some talent to figure out how to, clearly, like, that's not an easy thing to do, man. To design that website and also to do it with AI is, that's a high level of like skill. That's like higher level skill than like most people that you'd hire, to be fair. Well, as much as I want to dig into how talented you actually are, let's talk about the 6max and the coaching. How do you apply this 80-20 rule to the 6max and coaching? Because let's be honest, if you were to become an 80-20 player and, if you got 80% of the value in poker, looking at it like that, if your goal is to be the best poker player in the world, that would not cut it. So So how are we applying this?
Well, first, before beginning the journey, you had to define your plan. Like, what do you begin with, where you pay your attention, and what do you ignore? So it took me some time to design this plan that would take me roughly 700 hours to cover all the main spots in 6max that I found for myself. The first one is being the most obvious one, big blind versus button single raise spot, which is the most common, and then you pretty much have this ranking system that I mentioned before. So yeah, and then I would just go from spot to spot, mastering each one to 80%, and then once I have the 80% understanding of everything, I would come back and try to get it higher to like 90 or wherever I could reach.
Okay. Well, what's wherever you can reach? This is kind of the thought process that I had as I was delving into like the optimal choice for reality, by the way. I'll give you an example for just a second. But it's like there's this concept of like helping the needy, right? Well, there's ways of scalably helping the needy, and there's helping them, but then at some point you're hurting yourself to help the needy. So you have to ask yourself all these questions, and there's optimal ways to help and give help. Just talking about the idea of positive impact, far bigger discussion. But so, okay, you're talking about how far did you take it with each thing? Or did you perhaps recursively, I suppose if you're really disciplined, what you could do is say, okay, I've got to the Pareto principle point. Now I'm going to make everything 90%, and then make everything 95% or something like that. Is there a way that you measure this? First of all, is that right? And how do you measure this?
It is almost precise. I would say that there is no exact way to measure if it's 90 or 95 or whatever. The way I measured it was by playing against the GTO trainer and assessing my mistakes. And then if I would play at the tables and I feel that I don't know what to do, I will try to analyze that board and that spot and then try similar spots and see if I get it, if I start getting it. If I don't, then I dive deep and start analyzing it. So that's the thing, and yeah, that's the way I do it. And with coaching, by the way, you asked, and that's a great question because I think it's very important for every coach to find the same most important things and start from them. Because if you want to transfer your knowledge to somebody, and my favorite analogy is, what would you give to your younger self if you could go back in time, let's say 10 years ago, and you have a couple of papers, A4 type of papers, what would you write to yourself? So I've started with that question, and then I've been developing it from the very beginning, and then up and up and up, making the program more sophisticated, and then trying to refine it, getting the feedback from my students, trying to remove everything that creates too much noise, and then try to follow the tendencies, because I haven't been playing actively, by the way, lately, and I'm still trying to study player tendencies to see how the field changes to stay in touch.
Okay, can you give us a couple examples of this? And it's interesting to not play and still retain, be as like an effective coach. What are a couple examples?
Yeah, so
papers, like what's your best example?
I mean, not the best, but the most recent one that I've been doing just lately, trying to update pre-flop. Because what I've noticed is that with GTO Wizard, when it came out, it has introduced some preflop that was not used before by anyone, even by the top racks, like shaman against 3-bets in 100 BB. When you open raise, let's say on the button, you get 3-bet and then you just shove. So it wasn't a common play before, and now it becomes more and more common. So you have to study, you have to understand how it works, what you want to shove, what is the GTO play, what is the exploit. Yeah.
Wait, what's the GTO shove? What do you do? Like, why is this a play? This seems like not a great play.
Well, in 100 BB, you have some hands that benefit greatly from shoving preflop. For example, hands like pocket tens, pocket jacks. If you 4-bet and you have to play pass flop, you usually get an underpair and not an easy play pass flop. And if you shove pre-flop, you get to fold many better hands like ace-queen off-suited. And if you have pocket tens, you get to fold ace-jack off-suited, king-queen off, king-jack off, etc. And you are getting called by the pocket pairs that are weaker than yours. So you pretty much reach this equilibrium point where you burn some equity and then you're still getting paid off, which is better than 4-betting your hand all the time. And then you have hands like ace king off that are great to shove, and hands like queen jack suited, for example. When you shove queen jack suited, you have a coin flip against ace king or any almost coin flip or any pocket pair, and then you get the hands that dominate you fold, like queen jack and ace jack, ace queen, king queen, etc.
Really? So this is part of GTO, or is this just like a pre-flop hack that most people are just not playing that well against?
It is GTO. If you give solver this option, it will come up with this preflop, and this is what I've discovered. I mean, everybody discovered in GTO Wizard. And if you do the range research, let's say 2022, 2023, you'll see that more and more people are doing that. And another example is like open raising size. Before, it was a common knowledge to open raise 2.5x from every position with some small deviations. But if you compare 2024 and 2023, you'll see that just in 1 year, more and more people started using mean raise under the gun from the early positions because it's more correct in theory. And it was something that was brought by the solvers, by the newer solvers. So in order to notice the things and to restructure your game, you have to pay attention to the tendencies.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I mean, I think a lot of the lower stakes players don't know this, although I'm not even sure that it would help them, but I don't know that it would help in like precisely the environment that plays GTO, because once people start deviating pretty far in GTO from GTO land, there's some weird things that happen, actually. I mean, I don't know how much you've messed with stuff like that, but it doesn't really apply online, because online you have to really know your shit, or else you're going to fucking lose. Like, they give you, like, it seems like, I mean, like you have to know stuff like this, or else you're definitely got some problems. Or like find holes to compensate somehow. But yeah, in like many of the hustler games, for example, certain things become part of the dynamic, like even like the long-term ability to stay in the game. And once people start playing whack as fuck ranges, you can get away with a lot more, especially since the post-op holes, in my opinion, are so wide that it feels as though you, like, I personally found the heuristic of just like take things to post-flop rather than find some tiny ass edge pre-flop by like doing a bunch of work. That was personally my approach in a lot of situations. And that worked pretty well at really a lot of situations, whereas if someone like you, it looks like, actually I'm kind of intrigued by the type of personality you have, where you're doing a lot of math on the side, it sounds like, and you're doing lots of calculated things. It even fits the way that you built your bankroll. You kind of just deposited $100 and you just grind it up from there. You had a conservative approach straight away and didn't make any stupid risks or anything like that. Is that right?
Well, I wouldn't call it conservative necessarily, because I think the rule I followed most of the time was around 25 buy-ins to short the new stake as soon as you can. And then if you lose, you just go back and try to grind it back. And I think it's not really conservative. I think it's the most optimal way, because if you don't risk enough, then you're probably not leaving your comfort zone and not trying to see how far you can reach.
I agree with that. It's conservative in that, well, it's maybe more well prepared. Let's put it that way. You seem like a guy who's well prepared. It's just odd for someone to just walk right in and have $100 and never have to deposit. That's a rare thing. That's not what I did, and that's not what a lot of people do. Would you say you're the type of person that just did you do your research first, or how did you do a lot of work and then deposit by chance, or did you just deposit and then? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I started playing offline from free rolls. I won some small amount of money and then started playing live cash games. At some point, I realized that it's not enough to make living, and if I want to reach higher, I want to really do things differently. And it's funny, I even remember one day when I was walking to this live casino with my friend, and he was telling me like, hey, there is this game on $200, $400, and these blinds, they worth a salary. The average salary in Ukraine back then, I think it was like $400. So we were talking about that, and we were so excited. And I think you played in those games. Well, I'm pretty sure you were playing in those games back then. It was like 2011.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I guess you knew a lot before you actually made that deposit. Is that correct?
Well, I've studied, only the basics. I would just print everything I could find on poker, any information, and then just study it in university during my classes because they were boring and poker was so fun. And on my way back home, I would listen to not podcasts, but some audio information that was available on poker. I don't know if you know this guy. There was old school high stakes legend, Aaron Jones, and he has this audiobook.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I definitely know about Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
I definitely know about Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones knows about me.
I think new school players don't know about him, but the old school people sure do.
I think I did the all-in pre-flop thing you're talking about with the pocket twos, and it was on like a video, and he was probably 3-betting like 25%, but I didn't know the math like perfectly really, but I knew it enough to know that 25% is not really enough for pocket twos to just jam. I knew it was like plus EV or whatever. Of course, you got the laughing, the mockery, and it was like that was time to go. That was time to hunt down the jungle man. He had some other issues. It turned out. Did you take down any of your any of the guys that you were watched as you moved up in stakes yourself? Because you seem to have a pretty solid ascent from what I could tell. It seemed like, yeah, you just kind of crushed, and I mean, you didn't talk, or I didn't see much about downswings. Let's put it that way. Did you have any challenges as you moved up also?
Yeah, and it's a bit weird to me why it's not. I mean, in my blog, I think I've written a few words about it, and in some videos that I've released, because I had many challenges actually. And by the way, remembering your question about the talent, I think I don't have, or I didn't have. I still don't know how to measure poker talent as it is, because it's such a vague definition. But throughout my poker career, I always thought that I don't have it. And I think my ascent had really started only when the first solvers were introduced in 2015. And before that, I would just be, average bump hunter regular. Because I didn't really know how to, what direction to move, how to approach this game. I remember Fish 2013 for Haley, Katya 19. They were crushing everything back then. And OTB Red Baron, of course. I tried to study their game. So this was the only way how I could try to get at least some type of direction. But the picture, it was never full because you only get to see some of the hands in the mining. It's really hard to understand the logic behind. So without the solvers, I'm not really sure that I would be able to reach higher stakes.
Yeah, really? Okay. I guess I had the wrong read. But most of what I read seemed all positive, and I'm reading things like, I was just realizing how you deposit only once. I was kind of impressed by that. I thought maybe this guy has got some way of just going in and being prepared and all that. Maybe he's like Mr. Golden Boy, but it looks like no. I had a very opposite experience, as it turns out. Well, tell me how you managed to get past those challenges. I will say, by the way, I also, my biggest turning point was when I started to use the solvers more. When I struggled in 2015, started using the solvers, and that was when I had quite an upswing. Yeah, I mean, it's really vague. I've seen in a lot of history, a lot of people went up and down, or they struggled forever, and then they finally broke through with poker. And a lot of them, a lot of people wouldn't necessarily have thought they had any talent until they did. Doug Polk was an example, by the way. He just fucking pushed through and fucking made it happen. He was playing 2-4 for a long, long time. And probably people didn't know that. He was just never really a success. So what's the biggest challenge that you faced, and how did you get through it?
I can remember, I think, two main challenges. One was in 2013, I think. I had a very good year, 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And then I went to Goa for winter, and it was my first trip to let's say, to an exotic country like India. And it was a little bit too much for 22-old youngster. I still remember, in Goa, like in India, if you want to rent a bike, you come to the rental shop, you ask them, like, can I rent a bike and a helm? They say, bike, sure, but what is the helmet? And you never see people wearing helmets. And it's very, and the traffic rules, there are not many of those. So it was very tricky times. Plus you have substances, let's call it, let's put it this way. So it was very hard to not get seduced by all those things. And I remember when I came back after 3 months or 2 months, I'm not sure, living in Goa, my game had deteriorated and I couldn't get through it for like maybe half year, maybe even a year. I just couldn't win anything. Like I tried so hard, I tried so many different approaches, and I was just failing. And I remember losing, I think the biggest downswing I had was 1/3 of my bankroll or something like that, playing an L1K. And I remember just walking at 2 a.m. in the morning in Kiev on an empty street, being, broken and crushed, and think like, what do I do? How did I get there? But those things, they really make you stronger if you don't give up.
It's funny. It's funny. First of all, kudos to going to India at 22. You picked a weird place in India to go to, by the way, in a way, because there's like other places that are much more profound in India than Goa is actually kind of a good place in a way. So that's like the nicer area if you go to the beach and that kind of stuff. But there's other areas that are far more profound in India than Goa that seemed like they'd be up your alley, by the way. But India's an intense, like the fucking Wild West, man. Or it's the Wild East. It's really a lot of people are not ready for India. India's something else. So I actually had exactly the same experience recently, but it was in my opinion, it was a bigger downswing. It was a really fucking fucked up situation, but it did make me. It's more of a girl problem thing where I literally couldn't believe my eyes about how much pain I was feeling psychologically and just walking through whatever and a lot of things like that. It's a really long story, that one, but it did somehow help me to find some strength to get through it. I personally listened to some music when I always had these challenges. There's like something in it that when even I had no friends, there's something in the fucking music, man, that made me persevere or whatever it was, or made me be at peace with whatever was going on. There's specific songs that I listened to quite a bit. Did you have anything for how you did with it, or were you just thinking to yourself, or what happened after that?
Walking alone helps, and listening to music, I can relate to that for sure. And there was some music that I listened to, but it was, a very depressing music when you listen, something like rap, but a mix of rap and whatever, about, failed love and stuff like that. And I would just listen to that, just dive deeper into pain and relate my poker pain. And I also had problems with relationships back then, so it all added up, and I found some help in music, but I'm not sure if it really helped or if it just numbed the pain. Or maybe if I tried something alternative, maybe, going all in for sports or hiring a psychotherapist, maybe that would help me to get out faster. What do you think, speaking of music, it helped you to numb the pain, or did it help you to cope somehow in some other way?
I have to look at the technical definitions of cope. I would not say that it numbed the pain. I think that it actually helped to cure it. Partly because it's like there was something in it that I have to think of what it was. It was as if there was something in it that was giving me some kind of energy, right? So I'd be like faced with really tough odds, and I'd be listening to this kind of music that was like, this is not gonna stop me kind of thing. It would be like, actually for me, it was more like metal, or it was like this pains exist, but fuck that shit.
Slipknot.
Not Slipknot, more like System of a Down or Tool.
Oh,
Tool
yeah.
I liked quite a lot. Then I did go in that direction. I like Disturbed a bit. I mean, it's not as classy, but there's a few different. There are more deeper ones that I found actually on accident. Someone heard that I liked Disturbed in school and like, dude, you have shitty music taste. And so what happened was the irony is I went like really deep into music. I went on the site that he did and I found all this deep fucking shit. And I found all this stuff that had all these like crazy emotions to it, and like stuff that felt like hope in like, there was one thing that felt like hope in this like really dark pit of despair, and like fucking stuff that seemed really hopeful and what's the word, somber. I mean, I found happy things too. I was like in a dark place at the time, but I later in life I looked at the light stuff.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all dark Dan all the time. Yeah. It sounds like rap was more your thing about failed relations. It's kind of fucked up when like everything's going wrong. You're like, oh shit. It's hard for everything to go wrong. That's takes a bit more to deal with. Did you have like friends that were helping you through that, or was just you found it helpful to get out of it yourself? Because I think a lot of people can relate to that in poker. You have to deal with that somehow.
There were periods when I had friends around who helped me a lot, especially when I was shooting an L5K, because it took me like 5 attempts and I was like failing, and then grinding back, coming back. Actually. Yeah. And my friends helped me a lot back then, the support. But if we go back in time, back to this first downswing, I remember that I was like almost totally alone, because I had a friend who I've discussed poker with, but I didn't really open up that deep, and I just preferred to deal by myself with all those things.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. It depends. Certain things work with different people. Every person has like a bit of a different path. What other music besides the rap that you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, that music makes me blush if I remember what I listened to. I mean, System of a Down, so many different bands: Billy Talent, System of a Down, Hollywood Undead, Rammstein. I was actually learning German thanks to Rammstein. I mean, I had German in my school and university, but I always hated it. But I loved Rammstein, so I was just learning their lyrics and trying to find a deeper meaning in it. And by the way, when I was younger, I really thought that if you listen to some bands, some known bands like System of a Down, whatever, their songs, their lyrics, they must have some very deep meaning. You just have to discover it. But as I grew up, I realized that like, nah, man, if you want to find meaning, you have to go to philosophy. Music is music. Yeah. And it's really like, I mean, if you have some deep, profound idea, it's really hard to rhyme it usually. So you have to kind of find other words that don't rhyme, and you have to go in depth. So music doesn't really help.
What about the old school rappers? I understood like there's this guy Jeezy, Genius, and these kinds of guys. There were some rappers in like the early days of rap that were super good at it, from my understanding. But maybe I'm mistaken.
I mean, I don't really know the rappers because I listen to a variety of music. Hollywood Undead, it's a mix of rap and new metal, I think. Linkin Park. Wow. That's very old school.
As much as I like to talk about philosophy, I will say that is where you go for the stuff with the deeper meaning. And actually the religions, believe it or not, even though the R word, spirituality, we'll use spirituality instead. But we'll leave that topic over here for a second. How did this deeper meaning stuff apply for you to actually learn poker? Did you find like deeper things in which to discover in poker that you'd say you teach people for the sake of becoming a better poker player?
Honestly, I think it's more banal because when I've started my journey, I just wanted to get, to become rich, to get the freedom to live the life I want. Plus, I loved the game. I loved this type of gambling since my childhood. We used to play these chips and stickers in the school during the breaks. So I've been always kind of addicted to that. But I never bet my money into some gambling slots or whatever. But I think I had the balance, risk and passion balance, this golden middle that you need to have in order to survive in poker. So my love for the game plus desire to get there was my main driving force. And I didn't really see any meaning. More than that, in my last years in poker, I actually quit poker. First time I quit it in 2018 after reaching my goal because I was burnt out and I didn't really see any point. Like I had this goal to win, let's say, X amount of money. And then on December 31st, I realized that, I have more than that. And then January 1st, 2018, and I just never opened the client. I don't review any hands. I just forget about poker for 3 months. And I thought that I'll never come back. But then I returned.
I actually had a bit of the same thing going on for me where I was making money and I wanted to keep scaling, but I realized, well, what the fuck? I'm essentially on like a treadmill or whatever. And I was like kind of demoralized. And I later did this translated in a way to me doing actually exactly what you wanted to do, which is follow your passions and all that, which is what I'm focusing on helping people in the community do ultimately. That's the ultimate goal, but actually it's not really what we're focusing on right at the moment. To continue, I did discover a deeper meaning in poker in multiple different ways, actually, myself, and this reignited my passion for poker, and this is why I'm here today on this podcast talking with you. Speaking of which, related to that and to the audience, is this idea of revealing the potential of poker players. It seems to be, this is one of your phrases at the top of your website. It feels to me that that's something that means a lot to you. This idea of revealing the potential players and bringing it out, because that's not something that most poker players say. Am I right?
Yeah, and by the way, thank you for this question. This is something that helped me to stay afloat, I think, for the last 2 years in poker, because I wasn't like super motivated. I always tried to find any meaning in poker after I had my financial needs being met, and making more money didn't ignite that much of a passion. And becoming the best, I thought that it would ignite the passion. I thought that if I would fight, for top 3, it would make me happier, but it really didn't. But on the side, while doing all that, I was training other players. I had the first small group of like 3 players for one and a half year contract, and then I had like 5 players. And that type of relationship, it had given me so much more meaning, and it made me stay in poker. I think I would probably quit earlier because it gave me some sense. Because without that, I would ask myself, what am I doing here? Why am I winning this money? And what is the point of all that? And I couldn't find the answer that would be true. I could find some artificial answers, like become one of the best, see how far you can go. It will make you feel fulfilled, but it didn't really make me fulfilled. But helping other players did, and being type of friend and mentor, it really fulfills me. And I even thought at some point that maybe I should go and study psychology and get degree, but then I realized that probably not. Probably I'm not that good in it because I probably don't have a knack in it. I have some, but I mean, I wouldn't become as good as I became in poker in a field of psychology.
Right. Well, poker's like kind of like applied psychology in a way that's a bigger deal. Like there's psychology has loads of problems with it as an industry, dude. Like it's not like you just get a degree in psychology. There's like 7 different fucking kinds of psychology, and like if you read Nassim Taleb, you can see that, man, like, dude, this stuff gets really deep. So poker in many ways is applied psychology to real life. So it actually is, in a way, you go down a better route. Yeah, it sounds like your passion was really in that direction. It's different for lots of different players. And this, to me, demonstrates the potential for everyone to succeed in their own kind of way. Stratified success is what I call it, or had this idea to call it, I should say. And to me, I really like this idea because this is some kind of way in which, poker has this pigeonhole of sorts of these top players becoming, there'll only be 3 top 3. That's how top 3 works. There can only be 10 and there can only be so many like fucking top stars or whatever. But maybe there's a way that we can all win, which is about winning the game of life. And so this is why I like this reveal your potential idea. How does that show up for you? Is there like what do you do with the players that gets them to give their potential? What does that apply with for you?
So first of all, I try to emphasize, I try to put myself in their shoes and to see, to look at the problems from their perspective, because people are different and they have different, shackles that stop them from progressing. Some people have psychological, biases. Other people just don't believe in themselves. Other people believe in themselves way too much than they should, given their current skill level. And the goal is to identify these weaknesses by each student that you have. And besides giving the main program that just gives, GTO exploits, explains how poker works, you try to understand what are exactly the strong sides of the exact person and what are his weak sides and why. But the problem here is that if the weak side is technical, it's easy to fix. It doesn't work from the first attempt. Sometimes it takes a couple of attempts. You have to explain the same idea in a different words a couple of times in order for it to work. But that's the easy part. The hard part is psychology. It's really hard, and I still don't have a definitive answer to it, because sometimes it's just impossible to make people break free from the walls they have in their heads. And it's not just about poker players. It's the same thing I can tell about my parents or my friends, that, some problems that I can see from a side and I can articulate it, I can explain it, and person agrees with everything, but then does nothing, which makes me doubt.
Correspondence.
Yeah, it makes me doubt about the effectiveness of psychology, because the person needs to really want badly to change. And it's not always the case. Sometimes people say, yes, I'm ready to do everything, but they are actually not. And go figure.
Yeah. This experience with this girl taught me this firsthand. And it's really a long story, but it taught me about psychology in many different ways, but about myself and about a lot of things. It does seem like, because I had to talk to psychologists a lot, it does seem like, probably going down a route of psychology to see some similar cases would be really interesting for you. It's my personal guess. I don't know. I'm not a psychology expert, but I have read some psychology books and some armchair, opinions. So I've read that. This has been an interesting route for sure that I've taken. But you are working on it, right? Because this is one of the hardest things to solve. Maybe even the solution is that people are, in revealing people's potential, they're not meant to be, like, maybe they don't want to do poker. Maybe they're doing it for some weird reason.
And that's another thing you have to figure out. And in fact, in the beginning of my course, in one of the first sessions, I have this question really like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to actually go meditate, go reflect on it? Why do you want to reach high stakes? What's the point? And the hard part is that people sometimes they don't know, and you can measure their technical progress. You can ask them to speak out loud their thoughts, to talk about different hands, to play against GTO trainer, and you can measure the progress. But with psychology, it's just a completely different thing. And sometimes people just go back into their habits, into their detrimental beliefs. So it's really hard. And sometimes it makes me sad, but at the same time, it makes me very happy when I see people change. Like I had students who quit smoking, who quit drinking,
really?
who quit informational addiction. Yeah. And
that's not a big deal.
That's no joke.
Those are some serious wins.
Yeah, but I don't attribute this success to myself. I mean, of course, I did invest into it, but it is always a compound effect, always a multitude of factors that have brought them to that place.
Okay.
But it's nice to be a part of it for sure.
But did you, I mean, were you a big important factor in making that happen? Because that's like no one has a success rate of 100 getting people to quit fucking smoking. To my knowledge, I haven't looked into it, to be fair. But like that's a good solid start. Have you helped people to quit bad habits in poker? Have you helped people to get over the fears over not bluffing? Have you helped people to get over the fears of calling a river bet? Have you helped people to get over fears of what is it? Just anything or whatever their problem is, or not using Sims. There's all kinds of weird problems of not trying anything new, not doing something, not GTO.
Well, the examples that you've provided, they're still more technical than not, because if somebody is, has fear about bluffing on the river or getting called, yes, it has the deeper reason behind it. And to discover this reason, I'm not qualified enough. If the reason is very deep, I can provide some ideas, some solutions, some, let's say, bandages that you put around your arm when you are bleeding. But you actually have to see the doctor, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not certified psychologist. I can provide hypotheses, but I'm very careful with it, because if you try to work with human psyche, you have to know what you're doing. And I had some personal experiences when it ended up really bad. Like my ex-wife started working with psychologists at some point of life, and I think he screwed her life. I mean, in a very bad way, because some people, they know how to influence other people on a very deep level, and sometimes they don't have a good intentions. Some people just enjoy manipulating others, so you have to be very careful when you search for a specialist. And that's why I try not to take the responsibility of getting deep and trying to solve these things that I'm not just competent to.
Yeah. I think, I wonder about the armband solutions. They seem like okay temporarily, but not really. Like that, you have to go for the deep solution. I mean, there's so many bad policies that people do that just don't go at the problems at the core. But I guess no. What I'm thinking is that it's very hard to get to the deep solutions, but that's really where you have to go, probably the hardest place. Same with poker. Is there an equivalent for you where you go deep with poker players, you get them to get a deep level of understanding? Is that a part of your teaching program?
Well, yes, this is my goal, to get as deep as possible and to help people reveal their potential. And I always kind of view it as not making person become, the best poker player, but try to help the person become the great player while learning the tools that have brought him there, so he could apply those tools in any other area of his life and become equally successful doing something with, let's say, a positive sum game. But poker is still a very nice thing to start off with. If you don't have money, you don't have confidence, and you have the passion for the game, then why not? Why not reach success here and then take the tools that you've learned with you into other areas?
I do think, and that's one of the, I just recently wrote an article about the power of poker, which is basically says that there's lots of things to take from poker that aren't just like winning money. It's hard to get people to see that. It sounds like, oh, what is this new age bullshit? But I do think that there's a large number of people that are just going to end up deciding, hey, poker's not for them to have a full-time career, and that they're better off like doing something adjacent to poker that's just as inspiring and as interesting. There's loads of cool things, like getting people to see their real potential at something is, I think that's pretty cool, actually, because it's hard to do that, or getting to unravel even if one ended up being like a deep psychologist or whatever it is, or I'm not even really focusing on poker myself anymore. Like, I did not expect that, but focusing on other things. And yeah, I mean, it would be really nice if someone did some like artistic stuff with poker. There's like the Thesaurus, who I think that's really interesting personally. Yeah. So why don't you talk more about this reveal your potential thing? Because how are you helping people get to these different places? So that's like groundbreaking stuff for poker.
I read a lot, and I try to apply this knowledge in my own life to see what works and what doesn't, and then try to give ideas, because different things work for different people. Some people are more disciplined, like myself, and one approach works for them. And then some people are very undisciplined, but let's say very talented, and they have to find a completely different approach. So I try to understand what kind of person my student is, and I'm just trying to provide my perspective, which works more often than it doesn't.
Right. Okay. Can you give a couple examples of that?
Could you elaborate on the question, like examples of what?
So you're reading about various sectors, and you're trying to apply it to guide someone in a certain kind of way. What would be a way to do that? I can think of something, but it wouldn't be something you read in a book, really.
Okay.
What's something that you might read in a book? Maybe someone who'd apply psychology to the game by chance, and like take this 80-20 rule. And now, I mean, I've personally done that. I look at the psychology behind a lot of what people do and apply it. So that's a possible example. There's a lot of 80-20 rules in psychology, dude. Like, people do the same fucking thing a lot. I'll give an example. So if a lot of players are under immense pressure to win, especially deep in a tournament, and they make a big mistake in a tournament, they're not going to make a big mistake right after. They're not going to do something they perceive to be a big mistake right after. They're not going to like run like a super crazy bluff, or it's going to take, let's just say this, it's going to take balls of fucking steel to run a super ass crazy bluff next hand. And that's just not going to happen. And not to mention, a decent percent of the population will be a bit tighter. It's not universally true. It's not universally true. It depends on someone's resolve. Although it doesn't help for that person to be in that shoes and now put themselves in more situations that they can get screwed up in, such as opening more hands pre-flop. That's like kind of a stupid idea after you make a big mistake. But most people have that intuition to be nittier in those spots. Do you think you could give me an example?
I mean, your example is more about poker, about reads. I'd call it like that. Yes. And what I meant is more like a multidisciplinary approach. For example, when you read books on investments or psychology or human relationships or seduction, whatever, you can find some really cool ideas and apply them into the poker. And when I say apply into the poker, I don't necessarily mean apply into your technical knowledge. It could be psychological knowledge. And one of the examples is fighting with easy dopamine. So trying to create dopamine fasting for yourself and create some punishments if you break your goals. For example, you set a goal to not read any news for 30 days. And if you lose, you have to donate X amount of money to Y charity. This is just an example from the book I've reread, by the way, for the second time recently. It's called, I think, Stop Reading the News. And it has 12, if I'm not mistaken, 12 reasons why you should never follow any news except for the local news. And then it really helps, especially to people who are addicted to, Twitter, social media, news. I don't have any social media. I mean, I have accounts. I never use them. I only use them to do some purchases, but I try to keep as strict informational diet as possible, because I know, in fact, that this is my weak spot. It's so easy for me to get drowned in this information, in this easy dopamine. And if you drown in it, your brain becomes, sluggish and lazy. And it's harder to digest books. It's harder to digest poker theory. It's hard to keep your concentration because you always feel distracted. But then you just get this idea, okay, what if I forbid myself to read any news, go into poker forums for 30 days? How will it end up? And this is just one example, one that I've tried myself, and now This is like a part of my program, by the way. You have to do it as a part of your homework. You just have to try and see if it makes your life much better. Because to me, it creates a huge difference in happiness in everything.
Well, okay, that's a nice idea. I think I know the answer to my question. But my question is, okay, if you are addicted to the news, we are veering off topic a little bit, but this is the kind of topic stuff I like. And it's been related to poker. How are you going to make yourself not read the newspaper for 30 days? That's unless if it's a serious addiction, that's going to be very hard. I've tried to anchor things to money precisely because I had like a high degree of honor, and I don't want to cheat bets. I don't like to cheat. Like, it turns out people cheat all the time accidentally, but if I can help it, I don't cheat. I'm just referring to the incident where I was accused of multi-counting. I didn't think that I was cheating when I multi-counted. It's going on in my head. I'm just trying to register this. Anyway.
Yeah, it's part of human nature to find easy ways. And it's normal. Well, I think everybody goes through such things at some point of his life.
Right. That was kind of the psychologist thing to say. So my point was that, yeah, how are you going to get yourself to like stop an addiction for 30 days if you're addicted? That seems like a hard thing to do. If your addiction's serious and you bet money on it, you're going to lose your money. Like, if you get a smoking problem and you bet a lot of money on it, you're going to fucking lose your money. That's not going to work a lot of the time. And it's actually very risky. But you can do it for lighter things if your degree of honor is okay. And this is, by the way, an extension of compassion to those who've tried to quit and have struggled with it.
Okay, so let's rate this problem on a scale from 1 to 10. If person has the addiction that is like 9 out of 10 or higher, then it would not help. This method, it's not going to work. But if it's 8, 7, or 6, then it's definitely going to work. What I do, I would just set this goal, 30 days with no news. And in order to actually go through it, you have to understand why the news are bad for you. Because if you only have some vague ideas, like it makes me more distracted, probably it's not enough to motivate you. And then this book, it helped me a lot. That's why I actually reread it recently, because it gives some very, very good, strong arguments why you shouldn't read the news. So first, you have to understand why you want to do that. And second, you have to create a motivating goal, financial goal. So I would, for example, say that if I break my promise, I have to pay $2,000 to some charity fund, but it has to be a charity that I do not believe in that much. For example, speaking of altruism, the question that you've started with, there are some things related to charity that I do believe and some things that I do not believe. And you want to pay this money precisely to the charity that you don't believe to be effective. Otherwise, it's not going to motivate you.
Okay, this is, by the way, is like veering into what I'm trying to do currently, or doing. It's just a matter of figuring out how to do it. But I've got a bunch of ideas. So, two thoughts. The first one is there a way to create an incentive structure so that people can root for you to succeed and also be involved? That was a thought that I had, and I struggled like hell to make that reality. For example, like where if you win your bet and the other people are involved, like they don't lose money somehow, right? Not a load of random people are going to bet against you. But like now there's incentive for yourself, and like the people win, they're rooting for you, right? I mean, one is simply, I guess, shares of tournaments, but I don't know how to do it for this case because like they can't get like a share of money if you succeed, but they can bet against you if they're not going to bet against you, but they can't. You could like donate money if you're going to lose, but then you're like negatively free rolling yourself. So that's one thought I personally had. I wonder if you have any ideas with that. And the second thing is, well, let's start with that and then go to the second thing with these. Well, actually, let's start with the second thing because it's simpler in a way. What causes do you believe in?
Okay, so first, I wouldn't necessarily agree that this is a negative free roll. If you lose, you pay $2,000, but if you not lose, it's not like you end up with zero. You end up with 30 days of detox and becoming stronger and better and more disciplined. So to me, it seems like a big win.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that you need to involve other people necessarily. Obviously, it works much better if you give some public promise or you have some people watching you. Obviously, it helps you. But once again, it depends on the person. Like to me, it's not necessary. In fact, I remember 10 years ago, I've started this challenge on poker forums. I've gathered like 30 people, and we all have set 5 goals for 3 months, and we all sent $100 to the public treasury. And by the end of this challenge, if you break if you don't reach your goals, your daily goals, your 3 goals that you have to reach in 3 months, if you do not reach them, you lose your money, and the money that are gathered are being sent to charity or spread between the participants who have come to the end. And every single day you have to write in your mini blog about your progress. So this thing, it helped a lot. Like it gives lots of artificial motivation. It works, but the motivation is still artificial. Like you have to rely on other people. And it's good if you want to reach your goals. Then it's great. It's like taking some drugs that make you addicted in the long run, but that help you greatly in a short run. So it's fine to do it. But if you want to rely on other people every time when you need to get some motivation, then something is wrong with your deep incentives.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Well, so you know, and this is related, by the way, to first thought is actually it's not a bad idea to try. So that might be an idea I try in the future for things. I might not, though, because I'm actually making some progress. And the second thing is related because it's a cause that I personally believe in as I delve deep into things. But why? I want to hear what you think are the best causes.
You mean best causes to donate your money to?
Best causes to donate your effort to. It's because donating your money to causes is, by the way, exactly the same flaw in a way that, I mean, in my opinion, the same flaw in a way that we just talked about. It's still a band-aid solution to those causes in a way. Like there has to be something at the root of things. That's my personal belief.
Speaking of donating efforts, it reminded me of a thing called voluntary bias. It is when people, let's say, go to Africa for 1 month trying to build some wells for people so they could get some water, which sounds like a very honorable thing to do. But if you think about it more cynically, more pragmatically, you could say that, okay, but if this person is a good specialist, wouldn't it be better if he works at his job and then he creates X amount of money and then he donates that money to build the wells? Like your effort building wells or picking garbage, wouldn't it be worse compared to your effort, let's say, playing poker and then donating much more money to solve the same problem? So looking from this perspective, I try to do what I do the best, which is at this point coaching and doing poker related stuff, and then donating money to things I believe in, instead of like quitting poker and then going and doing things I believe.
That's more or less where I'm at. I'm trying to figure out ways to scale, which I'm succeeding a bit. So I do agree with you, conditional on that the person that has the skill set to do that. If the person does not have the skill set to do that with, and because there actually is like some subtle utility, some intangible utility to like the people like go out and show the heart of whatever would happen. But you gave me this thought that, those people should somehow connect and work together, which would be really interesting. That's a really interesting idea. How the fuck to do that? We'll work on that later. But yes, I do agree that rational approach should go there. Although, when I delved into like rationalizing a solution towards, you actually didn't really answer my question in a way. You just answered that rationality should be applied towards positive impact. But my question to you is, is more precisely what causes you to believe it?
What causes I believe in?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very deep question. To be very blunt, I'd say that first of all, I don't have the precise answer because I know that with the time I change my perspective because hopefully I become wiser. Okay. Maybe I become dumber, but I believe that I become wiser with the time. Who knows? Time will show. There are 4 things I believe in change, or at least my perspective change. Like I used to think that reality is one thing at some point, and then I would think that no, reality is probably a little bit more complicated than I think. So at some point I would think that the meaning of life is X. Now I'm closer to a thought that there is no objective meaning in life, and life is quite absurd. Nothing has any meaning, and we have to create this meaning artificially. And if you think about it from a wide perspective, you can always ask, okay, if there is no objective meaning, why the hell should I create any artificial meaning? And then my answer to that would be because you're living this life, and life is like a game. And if you want to play this game, if you want to have some fun, if you want to have good time, you really have to go somewhere. You have to have a direction. So you have to believe in something. So given this artificial sense that you create for myself, that I create for myself, I would say that it is making this world better than it was before you came to it. So applying your efforts to change things around you for the better. And to me, it is working with poker players and doing what I have a knack in poker and trying players to become better. And then accumulating finances. So at some point, if there is something that I believe is worth investing that money as a charity, then I would do that.
Okay.
And I do invest. My money into charity, but once again, that cause. Well, answer this question. Like right now, I've been supporting Ukrainian army for the last 3 years with the ongoing war. Nice. And I know that many people do not believe in it, and I have the different opinion. Like I believe that some things they cannot be solved with pacifism, and sometimes evil has to be stopped. So at this point of my life, this is what I believe in. But maybe with the time, 10 years passes, and I'd say, oh, that probably didn't make a lot of sense.
Well, it means a lot to you, and that's your cause. Like that, I can certainly understand that. They're essentially invading your friends, places. So, you got to stand up for what you believe in. I've debated with that idea a lot myself, and came ultimately to a couple of conclusions. But the general theme of the result is that yes, at some point you need to defend yourself. If we're talking about like how the world does work or should work and this sort of dance of things. That was a pretty good answer that you gave. It makes me reluctant to give the answer that I personally thought. And even so, there's a bit of paradoxical aspect to it, but basically to remove all the layers and see things as they actually are, like going back to it actually seemed like there's lots of truth in those ancient religions, but you have to find it. It's going to take a longer discussion for people to understand what the fuck I'm talking about without thinking, what has Dan got it into? People will not see it, a lot of them on this channel. But that's personally where I've ended up going, following everything. And I've made quite some interesting discoveries, but to view things from a different lens, as if like, it reminds me of the Matrix of how you have to look at things differently, that there's a true view is actually what it's called in Tibetan Buddhism. But they give it other names in other religions. I think the name in Hinduism is Oshito. Muslim religion has another religion for it. They don't know what the fuck it's called in the Muslim religion, but Christianity, this one I know about, it doesn't overtly refer to it, but it talks via it, like via parables, and you have to see different things in the parables. But basically, the poker equivalent for people watching is okay. So in poker, there's all this noise, right? And we learn eventually that paying attention too much to these downswings or whatever is not going to get you any, you know, make it, or paying attention to these coolers or whatever is not going to get you any money, or paying attention when you have like aces and not aces, and the fact that you have aces and you're the biggest hand waiting for that, it's not going to get you any money. It's going to just drive you crazy. But if you pay attention to the best thing you can do in that moment, if you be present to that moment and optimize your view for the sake of yourself, that ends up being the true view of poker, would be the best way to explain it. Does that resonate with you at all? That's all in my humble opinion, I can offer as I've found.
It does resonate with me, and I would also ask you the next question. Would you agree that even in poker, the final goal is not as important as the process itself?
Yes. Well, what is the final goal? It keeps changing.
For example, to become top X players or to win X amount of money. So my question here is that would you agree that reaching your goal is not the main thing, but the way your journey is more important than the goal itself? Because it changes perspectives a lot, because then you realize that if you have some goals and while trying to reach them, you're feeling unhappy, then you should drop these goals as fast as possible and search for something else. That's why I quit poker, besides being, having health problems. I've just realized that it doesn't fulfill me.
You make a valid point, or that's something worth thinking about. That's actually, you actually gave me a couple points to think about for myself. But I've been pretty happy doing the things that I've been doing. That's one thing I was realizing lately is I've invested so much of myself into my new vision, but even though I'm not exactly succeeding, it's actually feels very satisfying in a weird way. So it seems like I'm on the right path. Even like these podcasts, like I don't make a fucking dollar from this thing. And I, it's been rewarding in a lot of surprising ways where I changed my view from doing other stuff. But on that note, I do think that the people in the poker audience, the idea is at least to get them to this place where they're no longer burdened by not necessarily having money. But that being said, I mean, that's part of my audience. For them, how about this? Let's talk about this, because coaching poker is what you do. Yeah. So how do you get them to the point where they're no longer in like this fucked up situation where they're debilitated a lot? Is there like a process for that? Because I presume, or do you just not take on like the beginning students? It seems like you must take on, I see you got a coaching for profit program as well. Do you what kinds of students do you take?
Well, I try to select my students well, and by selecting, I mean more like human qualities, to have a call to talk about like what person it is, because I've declined, I mean, maybe not many, but at least a couple of people who had, perfect applications. But then we would talk and I would understand that, this person, he doesn't resonate. I just feel something subconsciously that would probably not work together well. So, speaking of coaching for profits, it's a long-term commitment. It lasts for 1.5 years and it has 10 students in a group. So I try to have the best 10 people who I feel comfortable working with. And to me, number one quality would be, let's say not number one, but two main qualities. One is being ambitious, and second one is being honest. Because, many relationships that I have with my students, they include, lots of financial transactions, and I don't really do any, I don't really check them out if they are telling me truth or not. I don't ask for screenshots from poker cashiers and transactions, etc. I do it in some rare cases when I feel like something's wrong, but I'd say it happens extremely rarely. So I try to build these relationships based on trust, and it requires the right person.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are deep things to select for. Actually, I'm impressed. You really are a bit of a dreamer. Actually, that's kind of the way that I do things. If really going for those core qualities, but you're picking a really tough game, man. I'm just telling you that this is as tough as it gets. I think to take people. This is kind of what I wanted to do. Matter of fact, which isn't bad because it's fucking hard to do. And but yeah, I do think you're actually doing a big part of what I want to do, which is get these people self-actualized to the point where their potential is unleashed. I really do have to go right now, but yeah, it's really cool. But I just, how much success have you had with it? Because how novel is it? Just because, in theory, this must be fucking hard. Because what you're doing is you're investing at the very core of what a person is and believing that beyond all fucking bullshit obstacles, you're going to the hardest possible place to do this. You have to have extreme resilience and patience for this.
Yeah, that's why I try to work with ambitious people, because if you have people who are not sure about what do they want in this life, they could demotivate other people. So it's really important to have the right group. Group dynamics matter a lot. We are the average of our 5 closest contacts, friends, people.
See, and by the way, they say this a lot in actually reading about the corporation as well. You want to get the right people on the bus, and if someone's even like not really a bad player, you get them to fuck off, or else they'll fuck up the entire team. But
but I mean that's more hard. It's harder than that in practice, because I had some students who were doing much worse than others, but I never kicked the person for not winning, not being good enough, because I believe that. The person, like, you never know when the person is going to reveal his abilities. I had at least 2 students on my memory who couldn't reach any progress after 1 year or 1 year and a half, but then they would do it later, once our relationships are over already. So if the main thing is to be ambitious and honest, and the rest is the work of the coach.
Well, do you see, by the way, there's this saying by Christ. He says, "Seek and you will find." And it looks like, okay, cool story. But, I mean, if you think about it, if someone really fucking wants something really badly, and I see this in every single industry, they do get it eventually. That being said, that is only true if time extends to infinity. Remember, extreme patience and resilience. And this is where we're talking about, like, will that extends for, multiple lifetimes, which is, but that's possible to have that kind of willpower. That is kind of, in this case, you don't need that kind of willpower, I don't think. I think it's possible within, whatever time. So what kind of success stories are there? Let's talk about that. And that'll be the last point for today. I really got to go. I've actually extended it too far.
So by success stories, I suppose you mean students who reach the best results, or how do you define success story?
Reach the results that they were looking for. Reach results that are inspiring. Reaching results that have them to be free and doing what they want. Something like that. Just them that they're happy, right?
Okay.
Like, why are we measuring from another stick? Why are we measuring in terms of dollars if someone's fucking miserable, for example? Cool. Or someone has more money than us. Okay.
But we can't really measure success in poker by happiness, because if you speak about students, because if somebody plays an L500 and then in 1 year and a half he plays an L600 and he's like, but I'm happy, and you're like, hey, congratulations. No, I think it doesn't work that way. And in poker you have to use the realistic measurements, like the stakes they've climbed, the success they've reached. So if you ask me that, I have 3 favorite examples. Two of the
Okay,
one
good.
of them I've just mentioned, was the guy who spent 1 year and a half in 2017, my first student. He didn't progress at all. Like, he started playing with 43 when soft lap, being very tight, nitty, having psychological leaks, and by the end of the program, one of the students reached, an L1K, I think, from L200. The second guy stayed at the same place. It made me really sad in the moment, but then he said, "Hey, I want to continue. Can I be a part of your next group? Not necessarily be a member. I just want to get the materials, and then I'll just be paying the percentage of profit." I was like, okay. And then, 1 year after, 1 year forward, he didn't show much progress at all again. And at that point, I thought, okay, some people probably just don't have the talent, or maybe I'm not the best coach. Maybe just the lost case. But then, half year passes, and then he sends me these graphs like every month, like, yo, I've made the best month. Yo, I'm playing NL 600 1K. I'm doing really well. 48 1 soft lap. I finally get it. So I remember this success story like for all the time, because it was one of my first long-term students, but also because, this guy, his perseverance, so much respect to him. His name is Andre. I don't know if he's going to listen to this podcast, Andre Argentleo, but so much respect, and heads down. And the other two students I had who started working with me playing L200 online, and one of them ended up playing the highest stakes, like nosebleeds, live in US. So online he reached to an L5K or N10K with select, and now he plays high stakes nosebleeds. And in some private games, I'm not sure about the details, but I know that he wins a lot. So great job by him. And what I know about him, he spent like 800 hours on theory in the last 1 year and a half or 2 hours or 2 years, something like that. So crazy work, crazy dedication, and crazy results. And the third guy, he also started playing an L200, and he reached like an L2K or 3K online, playing, being like a top winner in a year, I think, and then also playing in games in Macau.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so these are my three favorite examples.
Okay, those are, yeah.
Sorry, just one thing. I really want to make it clear that there is some percentage of my, sorry, I'm a bit tired. Some percentage of their success belongs to my efforts, but it's not a decisive percentage. The decisive percentage is always the work by the person and his perseverance.
I like that statement, actually. I was just thinking about something related to that in the self-help industry. Rather, it's the co-help industry, I think, is the better way of doing things. And those are great stories, actually. And there are multiple different examples that show different roadmaps to success. So that's actually very interesting. I really got to go, but I like those examples just because, like, not everyone's road to success is going to look the same, and it shows that there's ways to do it. Those are more like different emotional ways. There's other ways too, but anyway, thank you so much for your time, Sergei.
Thank you for the invitation.
Sergei,
it was a great talk. Thank you, Daniel.